You may not believe me when I tell you that for the first 10 or 11 years of my life, I did not speak. Now, I know that sounds kind of crazy, and honestly, thinking back on it now, it sounds crazy to me because that person that I was is not the same person that I am now. I feel like almost an imposter talking about this story because it seems like that person wasn't even me. Today, I want to talk to you guys about my struggle with severe social anxiety and some of the lifestyle changes that I've made in order to overcome that. Now, before we get into the video, I just want to quickly introduce myself and welcome you guys to the channel. My name is Bridget. On this channel, I talk a lot about introverts, I talk about social anxiety, general anxiety, and so if any of that interests you guys, make sure you go check out some of my other videos as well. So with that being said, let's get into the video. Now, first I want to just quickly talk about what social anxiety is, because I feel like it gets confused a lot of the times with just shyness, being an introvert. And I've gotten tons of comments on my channel, people saying that the stuff I talk about that's introverted related is really just social anxiety and vice versa. So I just want to clear it up because I am an introvert and I have struggled with social anxiety. I still struggle with social anxiety. So for those of you who don't know what social anxiety is, it's pretty much a fear of speaking. It's a social phobia. And when I was younger, I was diagnosed with something called selective mutism, which is a heightened version of social anxiety. So that's why when I was younger, I wasn't speaking at all. After that trailed off, my social anxiety kind of stepped in its place. And so I was able to talk to my peers, my teachers, just like general things like that. But when it came to putting myself out there in any kind of public setting, I would not do it. I would not be the person who introduced themselves in order to make friends, the person who raised their hand in class to ask a question. I would be scared of talking on the phone. I would be scared of going to the grocery store alone. I would be scared of asking any kind of question to literally anybody. And it was obviously very challenging for me to further myself, to, be in a place where I wanted to be. In school, I struggled tremendously, especially even up until college. I was struggling to make friends. I was struggling to ask questions that I needed clarification on. And because of that, my grades started to drop. And then when it came to the after college, the post-college life, it was like interviews would scare the shit out of me. Trying to get recommendations from professors scared the shit out of me. I wouldn't go to presentations that I had to do for a class. I wouldn't be attending meetings in the job I had on the side. And so everything started to just come crumbling down. So to just summarize everything that I've just talked about, I struggled a lot. And it wasn't really up until a few years ago where a lot of big changes started to happen. There were, of course, a lot of milestones that I reached along my journey, but I think the most drastic change came just a few years ago. It was a little bit before I started this channel. And what I really asked myself was, why did I want it? Why did I want to change? Because I knew I wanted to change. There are so many people out there who, recognize something about themselves and they don't want to change. And there are other people who recognize something about themselves and they want to change. And I was there. I wanted to change. Not because society told me that it was better. Not because my family, my friends, people around me were telling me that it would be better if I didn't have this. But because I wanted to change. I knew that I couldn't get to the level where I wanted to be if I stayed stuck, if I stayed with that mindset. And that brings me to really the first change I made, which was my mindset around it. At that time, my mindset was, if I messed up, if I failed, if I looked like an idiot, if I said something wrong, if I said something stupid, that's it, that I would be done. And I wouldn't get to try again. And people would judge me, people would look at me different, people wouldn't accept me. But really deeper than that, it was that I wouldn't accept myself if all of that happened. And what I really needed to understand was that if I messed up, if I failed, if people judged me, that's not a reflection of who I am as a person. That's just life. People mess up all the time. And I had to make that transition of realizing that if people were going to judge me, if I was going to fail, that was okay. And that was something that was extremely hard to do. And so I started to take that belief and say, if I stayed with the belief I currently have, which was, if I mess up or fail, that's it, no one will accept me. If I stuck with that one, where would my life be 5 years from now? Or if I mess up and fail, that life would go on and it would stay the same. Where would my life be 5 years from now, or a year from now even? Would I rather not conquer the fear and stay stuck and stay quiet and stay, just not being able to like live freely and not feel like I'm in a constant state of anxiety? Or would I rather take a risk, conquer that fear, and be somewhere that I wouldn't even imagine? Being able to network, being able to, meet new people across the world, having clients, being in virtual summits, like all these things that I've been able to do, I never even imagined. And it was only because I changed that belief, I changed that mindset. The second thing that I think was really important for me was being able to challenge myself, really getting out of my comfort zone, not just with socializing, but with every aspect of my life. So I started really small, talking to people I wouldn't normally talk to anywhere I went in public, saying yes to things when I really didn't want to go, making plans with people, waking up earlier, taking cold showers, trying out meditation, which was like, being a little bit more strict with my workout routine and getting movement in throughout the day. There were just a lot of small things that I started out with that really made an impact. And as I made those changes and I showed myself that I could be put in uncomfortable situations, I was more willing to do so. The only way I was growing was if I was making myself uncomfortable. And that might look different for you. So it really just depends on what fears you have in this moment surrounding your social anxiety, and taking it day by day and starting out with the little things. The next thing I want to talk about is probably the number one thing that helped me, and I really, really do not see people talk about this. Essentially, what I started to do when I did these uncomfortable things, when it came to going out, let's say to the grocery store or getting a coffee or getting my hair done, whatever the case was, I set an intention before I went into that conversation or that interaction. And I said, this is what I'm going to be, and this is what I'm going to accomplish. And because this person had no, prerequisite to who I was, I could be anybody who I wanted to be. As long as it was a person like I'd never met before. That's really what I used this. I could be talkative, I could be loud, I could be creative, I could be intelligent, I could be, whoever I wanted to be. I could ask questions that I wouldn't normally ask. I could joke around. And so I set that intention every time I went into those interactions. And I think really the only way I was able to do it was knowing that that person I've never met before, or I maybe was not going to see again. And so that fear was kind of diminished, right? So it was really helpful to get over that initial barrier. And then once I did it, once I checked off all the things that I planned to do in that interaction, I had this wave of just pure bliss. I was so proud of myself for doing it. And for those of you who don't struggle with this and are just watching this video, this might seem literally ridiculous, but for me and for others who struggle with social anxiety, sometimes talking more, introducing yourself, just little things that you have with people that you're interacting with is so much and is so powerful for us when we actually accomplish it. And so what these interactions were able to give me was proof that I could do this with other people in my life. And so the more I was able to do this, the more comfortable I got with just having interactions with people in general. The last thing I want to quickly talk about is kind of something I talked about in the beginning, but I really feel like I didn't put an emphasis on it. And that's really desire. The only way you're going to try and attempt any of these things is if you want to. If you have the desire to change, actually putting in the work is going to be easier. If you have no desire to change, why do it in the first place? Why attempt? Why try to conquer these fears? Why change the beliefs? Right? Nothing is going to happen if you don't want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, that's fine. I'm not telling you that you need to change if you do have this, if you struggle with this. But if you do want to change, there are things that you can do to try to make life easier, to get to places you never thought you would get to meet people that you never thought you would meet. And getting clear on the vision of who you want to be makes the transition. I had a vague idea of how I envisioned myself. When I was younger, I had these visions. It's gonna sound so crazy. When I was younger, I would have these visions of what my life would potentially look like, because I was struggling so much and I felt so alone. And so I used that time, the time where I spent just honestly hating my life, thinking about what my life could look like, dreaming of, another world in which I was talkative and social and friendly and people loved me and adored me and, I had this confidence about myself, and I would dream and I would think about this vision every single day. And I really think that that got me to the place I am today. I will say my life doesn't look exactly like those visions. I'm not exactly that person, but honestly, it's pretty close. It's pretty close to what that girl envisioned for herself. And so if you too are struggling, if you are having these wild visions of what your life could look like, I want you to try some of these out. I want you to think about some of these things that I talked about. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you found it helpful and useful as always, and I will see you next time.